Welcome, deviant drivers. This is not a drink with a driver. This is a chat with Merc. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to put together a series of videos. It's going to talk about things that I get asked quite a bit. And you guys are always asking me, hey, should I buy this? Should I do that? I'm ready to get off controller and I want to do wheels and I want to get rigs and I want to get all the things. And the general questions always come is, which one should I buy? And uh, that's not a very easy answer. A lot of it depends on a lot of factors, budget that you got, space constraints that you're working with, uh, things like that. And we're going to get into all those things. But you generally hear all the time the comment, I'm ready to get off controller and I'm ready to take the plunge. Well, okay, you're ready to start racing with the wheel because you want that more of an immersive environment. Great, wonderful, love it. Just exactly how much in the plunge do you want to go? And that's going to be the purpose of the videos that we're going to be following up with. Are you in the camp where it's hey, I want a wheel that's going to be giving me some immersion. I don't have a lot of space, don't have a huge budget. I just want to get off controller. Or are you in the camp of screw you, Junior, you're going to community college because daddy's got a sim race? So when we talk about these things in the following videos, there's going to be several things. There's going to be discussions about rigs, drive units, pedals, and then the accessories, wheels, shoes, gloves. All of these things are going to be expenses that you can expect are going to come with the world of sim racing. So generally when these questions come, the first thing is, hey, I want to get a direct drive unit or I want to get this or I want to get that. What do you think? And the first thing I always tell people is that the first thing that you want to do is you want to build your system to your budget. Have a realistic budget, know how much you want to spend, know how much space that you have. And the bottom line is the first thing that you should buy is going to be your rig. I say this because this is the backbone of your system. This is where everything is going to bolt to. This is where all the accessories and the seats and the belts and the this and the that and the triple monitors and everything is going to be built around the rig. So it's important to take into consideration your factors. Number one, do you have a budget? Be realistic. Number two, do you have space constraints? If you do, fine, that's okay. Number three, what are you looking as an end result? Do you absolutely want to have the shit hot platform that is going to blow everybody away? And do you have the budget for it? Are you just looking to get over better than a controller and get a little immersion and kind of, that's all good? Fine. Take into consideration these items when you're building your rig and start with the rig. Now, my recommendation is, has, and always will be to start with aluminum profile, period. End of story. I don't recommend anything else. Now, that being said, I don't use aluminum profile. Why? Because I messed up. I bought the wrong thing and I haven't changed it out yet. But just because I made a mistake doesn't mean you have to make a mistake. With aluminum profile, what you want to look for is basically they're all pretty much the same. I mean, yes, they got some that are stronger than others. Yes, they got some that are a bit better than others, or this one's rated for that and motion and all these kinds of things. And you can spend as much as you want to on them. And that is certainly an option. However, generally speaking, in this day and time, about $1,000, maybe a little less, 800 bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood is what you're looking at for a good aluminum profile rig. Now, the reason I say aluminum profile is because number one, it's light. Number two, it's strong. And number three, it's heavily customizable. And you're going to find in sim racing that customizing is going to be extremely important. Reason being is what you think you want now, and you say, all I want is this. All I want is to bolt a wheel and some pedals and go sim racing. That's not going to be where you end up most likely. You're probably going to end up with button boxes, probably going to end up with shifters, handbrakes, maybe even an air conditioning kit. Maybe that's you, maybe not. But either way, you're going to be bolting additional features on there. You're going to come up with all kinds of things. You're going to come up with ideas to put on that rig that you need that you don't even know you need yet. But I promise you, you'll need them. The aluminum profile, you can modify and customize this to your heart's content. There literally is almost no limit to what you can do with aluminum profile. So they're also not astronomically expensive. Now, if you have a space constraint, that is where the foldable kind of removable and rigs that you can move or put in a closet, or I'll flash some pictures up of some of these that are on the market. These things are going to range in price as well. Usually you're looking $300, $400, $500, just depends. They're great for, if all you've got is a small 1-bedroom apartment or something, and you don't have a lot of space, and your sim racing space has got to be also shared with, say, the living room space, and maybe the girlfriend or the wife is not open to you throwing down a massive triple screen rig right there in the living room. I get it. It's hard to convince them of those things sometimes. But if you do have the space, aluminum profile. If you don't, then you have these foldable rigs that you can go to. Now, there are going to be limitations with foldable rigs. You have to understand that you're going to be limited on the type of wheel unit that you can bolt to it realistically. Now, you can bolt anything pretty much that you want to them. However, how they perform and what your expectations might be might not align. Now, which units do I recommend? My recommendation is going to be general, again, aluminum profile. With that said, which one do you go with? Doesn't really matter. Find the one that you like, look at some of the specs. All this is going to be dependent upon your budget. Because at the end of the day, sim racing is like pretty much anything else in this world. You can spend as much as you want, and you can spend as much as you've got. So the question is a personal one to you. How much do you want to spend on this gear to do sim racing? Now that you've gotten your rig, the next video follow-up we're going to talk about is going to be drive units. Which drive unit do you get? Which one's the best? Which one do you want? Again, this goes into a lot of different issues. So now the next section that we talk about is going to be the drive unit. That is going to be the unit that you're going to use that's actually going to power the wheel. Now there's really basically 3 types. You have gear driven, belt driven, and direct drives. Those move up from basic up through progressing in technology and whatever you want to call it. Your gear drive types are going to be your Logitech setups. They're going to be your entry level types. They're going to be the ones that you use at the lowest price point. They're still good, and they still give you immersion. Good drive units, not saying anything against them at all. And then next up in your step is going to be belt drives. And of course, as we're moving up from gear driven to belt drive to direct drive, we're also moving up in price. Again, based upon your budget. These things can easily be researched on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of YouTubers that are doing great reviews on all kinds of stuff, whether it's Logitech or Fanatec or Moza, whoever. Go watch those guys. They do great videos. I'm just telling you that there's definite changes that go between whether you go with a gear driven, a belt driven, and a direct driven unit. Now, that being said, there's also a cost associated to each one. So make sure that you're associating that cost with your expectation as to what you're trying to build. And this goes back to our rig. Again, if you're building a rig to be the shit hot rig of the century, you're probably not looking at a gear drive wheel unit. So, once again, what type to pick? Totally up to you. Go to YouTube, watch videos, and have fun with all that. Now, tying into your drive unit, typically they're going to come with some type of pedal. It's not always, not all of them, but most of them do. So if you get, say, for example, a Logitech unit as an entry gear-driven unit, and that's all that you're in need of. Great, wonderful. They're going to come with a wheel and they're going to come with a pedal set. Are these pedals going to be as good as, say, top of the line pedals coming from Fanatec, for example? No. Are you paying that much money? No, you're not. So use what your budget is. Again, and I can't stress this enough, that there are no free lunches to this, just like there isn't in much of anything else in this world. So use what you have to spend to buy what it is you want to buy to get where you want to get. Now, what does Merc recommend? Well, Merc uses a set of Fanatec V3 inverted pedals. Why do I use V3 inverted pedals? I use V3 inverted pedals because they're the best Fanatec has put out so far. I exclusively, pretty much exclusively use Fanatec equipment. And I bought the V3 inverteds because they are the top of the line that Fanatec offers. However, it takes us into another level of discussion that we have to have, and that is of ecosystem. Once you kind of commit to an ecosystem, you have to be accepting of the fact that certain ecosystems are not going to commingle with each other, especially not when you're talking about consoles. So, are you a console racer or are you a PC racer? This is going to change your direction of how you're going to pursue things. Because if you go down the console direction, your choices are extremely limited. If you go down the PC direction, you have many options. However, you cannot, in many of these cases, cross over. Once again, I'm going to direct you back to YouTube as to how exactly to cross that bridge, because there's a lot of technicalities. We can't get into all of them here in one video. Now, typically in this race league, we're going to be discussing console things. So that's the direction we're going to go. If you go down the PC route, there's a lot of videos for you. Have fun. Watch videos to your heart's content. Now, down the console route, there are very few options as far as drive units. You have Logitech, which is probably the largest, and most people are probably either using or started out on a Logitech wheelbase. Then you have Fanatec. Fanatec is probably the most well-known and one of the very, very few, if not the only, companies to offer a direct drive unit for use on console. And that is very important. Since they are the only ones using a direct drive unit, that is a direction I am going to tell you is probably the best direction to go to. Direct drive offers so many benefits over belt-driven or gear-driven options, period, bar none. Debate me in the comments, but there is no comparison. Since we've established that the proper decision is direct drive unit, and by virtue of that, it's basically for console, Fanatec. Now, what Fanatec unit to choose? What Merc uses is the DD Pro. I use the GTDD Pro unit. It came as a set. It comes as a whole kit. Again, there's about 500 videos you can watch on unboxing on this on YouTube. Go watch them. Don't need to show you unboxing setup and all that kind of stuff. You know what it is by now. It's been out for a while. This is a solid bulletproof program. Why do I use it? I use the 8 Newton meter unit because it is reliable to me. It is a direct drive unit and it is compatible to console. I do PC racing. That's a discussion for a different day, but it gives me console compatibility. Pedals. They come with pedals. Most of these units, especially if you go with the Fanatec DD Pro, they're going to come as a kit. And they're going to have the unit, they're going to have a wheel, that one, and they're going to have pedals. Now, since they have pedals, you're good to go. You pretty much bolt this thing onto whatever rig you decided to buy after you clicked pause on my video and went and purchased whatever you bought on Amazon. And now this will just bolt right on there and you'll be good to go. Yes. Do you want something better? If you do, then what you're going to go after is some other thing in the ecosystem. Remember, you've just committed to an ecosystem, and this is going to take our little travels down this journey as we go because we've committed to an ecosystem. So here we go. You want better pedals. What does Merc use? Merc uses a set of V3 inverteds from Fanatec. Why do I use V3 inverted pedals? Well, very simply put, I use V3 inverted pedals because they are the best that they offer and they are inverted, which means they are more realistic in my mind. Except race cars have pedals that come from the floor, so maybe they're not realistic. Maybe I could have saved $100. I don't know. I don't get paid to be smart. I just spend money to basically entertain you guys. So with regard to pedals, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get the best set of pedals you can buy. Now, with respect to pedal units, what we want to determine is there is 2 very significant types of differences. With pedals, you have load cell and non-load cell. If you're going direct drive units, you need a load cell pedal. This is overly simplified, but there's far more that goes into it. Again, watch some YouTubers and get some information about it. However, what you want is load cell pedals. Load cell pedals are going to give you the most realism when braking. They're going to give you some adjustability in some cases, depending on which ones you pick. They're also going to be what is in the top tier of pedals that you're going to see in other manufacturers. They're much better. They're much more progressive. They're easier to trail brake off with, and they're just going to give you that immersion that you're looking for, which you obviously are, because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this to begin with. So now that you've got your drive unit, and now that you've got whether you're debating, do I get the 5 or do I get the 8? Again, go watch some videos out on some YouTubers. They'll tell you and direct you in the direction of where to go or what's best for you. And again, a lot of this comes down to your budget. Nobody can tell you your budget but you. So, where does your budget stand? What does it allow for? What do you want? There's going to be a whole lot of things further down this road as we go that you're going to want to do. So don't think that it just stops with the rig and the drive unit. We move on to the next segment of the video, which is going to be wheels. I got wheels, mother. Now, with regard to wheels, this is more of the fun category that everybody really likes. Everybody really likes to talk about the wheels. Why? Because they're cool. I mean, how cool are these things, right? So this is the part of sim racing that everybody really, really, really likes. But for our instances of our discussion, what we need to talk about is some basic knowledge of what this is. So, what is this other than a wheel, I guess? But what goes into it is important, and it's what you need to understand, especially if you're getting into the Fanatec ecosystem, which is I get asked about constantly. And what is it that we need to discuss about this that I need to explain to you? Well, the first part is there are several different things about wheels. Number one is you have two types. You have the type that come pre-built, ready to go out of the box, hook it up on the car, rig, and go. The other type is like this, where it's completely customizable and you can make whatever it is you want. Let's take it and break it down. The first thing is the rim itself. That is the part of the wheel that is the rim that your hands touch, that you use and you drive with. The second part is, and maybe, for instance, in this, I have the endurance button box on this Porsche rim, is a button box of some kind. This particular one mounts directly behind the wheel and then mounts to the wheel hub. Okay, you can see it right here, this gold part, right there. Also mounting to the wheel hub are the shifters, okay? So these are individual parts. Each one of these parts is a different part. So when we talk about a wheel, what we're actually talking about are many, many different parts. We have a rim right here. In this instance, we have a button box or a button of some type. Maybe it fits on the front or off on the side or something else. We have a hub right here. We have shifters. And we have some mechanism of which to connect all of this to our drive unit. In this case, what we're talking about is a QR2. Now there is also QR1, and that will be for a separate video. However, Fanatec connects using either QR1 or QR2. QR1 being the oldest type, QR2 being the newest type, or this one. So this is a wheel. This is a GT wheel, as we refer to them. You can have different ones, or you could have a formula wheel, which is totally different. Still has buttons, still has all the same functions, everything else that goes with a GT wheel. But in this case, this one is a little bit different in the sense that I've got it on a stand. Let me take it off of that. But you can see that it connects the same way. Why? Because it has to, because that is the ecosystem of within Fanatec. I know it's getting confusing, that we've decided to go with here. So this is a QR2, and it's connected to this wheel, which has shifters here. Yeah. And all of this is all contained in one unit. You cannot pull different pieces off of here. It's basically, you have what you got. Okay. And there's a whole lot more we can go into all this. So when it comes to wheels, what we have to decide is, are we going to use a GT wheel like this, or a formula wheel like this? Okay. Wheels also come in different diameters. Now, you might ask, why would a wheel come in different sizes other than for companies to make more money? Well, for example, right over here, we have the NASCAR wheel. The NASCAR wheel is a 350 millimeter wheel. This, I believe, is a 320 millimeter wheel. Now, it's a smaller wheel, which means it turns faster. Okay? A bigger wheel turns slower. Imagine a school bus, driving a school bus. Okay? Why is that an advantage or why is that a disadvantage? Well, when we talk about wheels, the larger the wheel is, the further we have to turn the wheel to make the same amount of input in the car. So the bigger this wheel is, the further we have to turn it to do the same thing as a smaller wheel, which can do the same thing faster. Now you say, why not always go with a smaller wheel? The answer is that because when you go to a smaller wheel, input get a lot more sensitive. Okay? Snappier is what you'll hear in different YouTubers say. It's a very snappy wheel. It's a very snappy wheel. Now, what that means is it's a smaller wheel and little inputs make big differences. Think Formula One, for example. We go back to our small wheel here. Very sharp inputs change the direction of the car with very little movement. When we go to a much bigger wheel, we have to put bigger inputs in. Okay? Now, likewise, with a yoke wheel like this, we can't physically take our hands but so far before it starts to hurt. So with certain cars, we have to adapt our wheel to the car we're driving. Formula wheels, very fast. Little inputs, big things happen. Bigger wheels, NASCAR wheel, we put bigger inputs in. They're much bigger. Imagine driving a bus. But again, as our arms can only go so far. Okay? Keep that in mind. This will become important because as you build your system, what you're going to understand is I need a different wheel for a different type of car. This becomes a problem for some of us because you end up with a whole lot of wheels. Now, final category for all this, and of course, this isn't even a final category. This stuff goes on forever. Literally, we could talk about button boxes, triple monitors, PC setups, all kinds of stuff. We could go on forever. But for the basics of what you're trying to do, the final is the accessories. And what is the accessories that you're going to need? Now, the first accessory you're going to need is a pair of shoes. Unless you decide to go barefoot or in socks, or you're some other type of Neanderthal that races in some other method. But if you're normal, you're going to need a pair of shoes. Now, what shoes do you go with? Totally up to you. I go with these. These are Puma Speed Cats. Okay, nice, comfortable shoes. Work good outside. Work good for sim racing. Very comfortable, moccasin tight. It's Sparco, so you know you're safe. And probably, I don't know, maybe are they flame proof? I don't know. If you catch on fire in your sim rig, at least your feet will be safe. You know what I mean? The second thing you're going to need is a pair of gloves. Okay, pair of gloves. Always got to have a pair of gloves. All right. So the reason you need a set of gloves on is when you're using these wheels that we talked in the previous segment, a lot of these are going to come with Alcantara outsides on the rim. Okay. And Alcantara and suede is very subject to oils in your hands. Okay. Your oils in your hands will ruin these wheels with prolonged use. So it's important for the preservation of the wheel itself to use gloves. Now, that being said, there's also a dexterity to using gloves that to me is more of an immersion. Okay. So once you get used to using gloves, you'll probably always use them. And a lot of people will use different things. You can use whatever you want to use. You know, you can use these are Sparcos. You can use whatever mountain biking gloves, mechanics gloves, you know, any type of glove works really. All you're really trying to do is contribute two things. One is immersion, and two is protection, probably the most important one, protection of the Alcantara rim you likely may or may not be using. That is the purpose of the gloves. Outside of that, if you don't like them, you want to go, you know, no gloves, no shoes, you know what? Race naked for all I care. But all I'm saying is if you want to do it proper, get you a set of shoes and get a set of gloves. So now that we've been through the rig and we've been through all the accessories and the drive unit and the wheels and the pedals and everything that you need, now we've gotten to the end with the basics. We've gotten you in a general area and we haven't promoted you or pushed you in any general direction whatsoever of any manufacturer or product you should choose. We're just saying select whatever best fits your budget and best fits what you're looking to do. So I leave you with this is that you're probably watching this while you're on the toilet, and I no doubt if I respond at all will probably be on the toilet. We'll consider this a bit of toilet conversation. So leave me your comments, like and subscribe to the video. And if you're not a member of Deviant Racing and do like this content and decide that, you know, our type of people or your kind of people, then look us up and join the league and go racing with us. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.